Whoops.
And the principal shouldn't take offense to that. If somebody calls the Board of Education member, I certainly don't take offense to it, but that's what's gonna take a little bit of training
Right.
and a little bit of working with people, because there's just a natural tendency to be a little defensive and to be taken, why would they call the
Oh,
teacher?
why do they go over my head?
Why'd they go over my head? And I've had this conversation, you know, with my administrators, not here. But that's fine, don't take it like as a criticism. Everybody's decision, including the Board of Education, your decision can be appealed to the Commissioner of Education,
Right.
ultimately.
Absolutely.
So the superintendent's decision can be appealed to the Board of Education, the Board of Education can be appealed to the commissioner. Everybody, and the commissioner's decision can be appealed.
Right.
So,
Right, if you do it again, you know, and it's kind of getting to yes, it doesn't mean we're gonna, like, you're gonna do it either way, always. Maybe, but you're gonna come to some sort of resolution, right?
absolutely.
And I feel like,
So I think it would be a helpful process
To go through.
to go through some of this, but I'm certainly not opposed to trying to come up with something that people can live with, if that's what the board would like to do. I think there would be some benefit, because I think it'd be good to have that conversation. We don't have to be defensive. If somebody calls a Board of Education member or writes a letter to the board, which they do all the time, I know some superintendents, they're right away, they're angry at that person. You've got to change that mindset.
absolutely.
It's just like they're giving you feedback. And I think that's something that we could maybe take on later.
Did it take you a while to get there?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I feel like the interns are just so good at all this stuff. So, it's just like, it's not like confidence without this big ego. I don't know, it's just so,
It just,
so refreshing.
it takes a while to learn.
No, absolutely. I mean, I feel like it's just so nice that, like, you know, I direct people to the next, and they can take care of it, okay?
It's experience and that, but I think it just, I think it would benefit everybody to have that conversation.
So I almost wonder, I mean, looking at the amount of space it takes up, if a simplified organizational chart, or, I mean, now I guess this does have phone numbers and stuff on it, which is a little bit beneficial maybe to just, you know, when you think about our organizational chart, that, you know, that really then shows that flow of like, kind of the lessons, right? And it's no more lines, because this covers all of those possibilities going right from you know, any level, faculty, staff. This is that same sort of top, you know, that you start down here and you can work your way up. If you're really happy with that up, the upper. Or you and that person conclude that they've done what they can do for you. And you feel welcome to go to the next one.
What I've seen from other districts, this is pretty typical. I haven't seen anything that's a big variant from
Yeah,
a
Lake
chart like
George
this.
is very similar.
Is it? But we can take a look and see if there's some other options too.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be this.
But there's certainly
It's just
some
an idea.
things that we.
No, I think it's, I mean, I think you can get the same, you know, there's 14 columns here, just remember, right? So there's principal in all of them. You only have 2 principals, right? So really like that next down pretty quickly to, we've got,
Yep, I'm envisioning, again, do more of a triangle.
right?
We'll have the base and, yeah.
And
I
that,
like
once,
it.
in the past, when I have, you know, when somebody's coming in and said, well, this is, you know, because what we have, I mean, now I people come in, I just send them to the superintendent. And feel like he's gonna be better than I am at knowing, okay, this is the point to move them in. In the past, what we would do is try to figure out where to send that person to.
Right.
But I think once you talk to them and they realize like, okay, sort of this turn, then it sort of clicks for them, like, oh, yeah, that makes sense, right? Like,
Okay.
it makes sense that, you know, use a veterinarian right around the country that I have no idea what's in school on a day-to-day basis. Let's get that question to somebody who has some idea how to answer.
Have an idea.
And hopefully, as time goes on, once we go through this process, you're gonna get fewer people coming to you. They'll know
Right.
where to go. And hopefully, the superintendent will be receptive, and people will become comfortable reaching out to them, and that's, or her,
Yeah,
and that's the whole process.
or if not, we'll know where to send them more easily too. If it's the-
You know, I-
What are you just saying to this? I mean, if they come across this, then how pretty good idea.
a district that is functioning efficiently, they're not going to have a lot of people going to board members looking for assistance.
Right.
That just shows you some of the dysfunction that you're dealing with. The more you have people going to you, that's.
Right. No, absolutely.
And I just have one other quick question on the
Yes.
brochure.
Yep.
Here. On the inside, protocol for public participation continued, is that from down here, like on the bottom left to the top right? when you have it open?
Oh,
Because I think the center section was
it was,
about,
yep, so I would
public
just have to
participation.
swap, I just have to swap those two sides, but you know what, that, let me think aesthetically how that will work. Yep, that needs to connect with that.
and I mean, would you be able to just move that center one to the left and move this in the middle?
But with
I don't know.
putting in our condensed version of the chart, in my
Maybe.
mind, I'm envisioning trying to keep that in the center.
Okay,
Let me figure out aesthetically how that will work, and I
Okay.
might have to break out of me trapping myself in a box that has to be in the center.
yeah.
I'm learning to get out of the box. Don't lock yourself into a corner, that's the new.
All right. Is there any other comments on the input? Good there. The next topic was a family engagement survey. We received an email from a parent, I believe, voicing their concern about kind of family engagement and feeling connected to the school during the pandemic. I think they mentioned specifically the kind of like the open house, the virtual open houses, and suggested that maybe a family engagement survey would be something that we could take on a couple times a year, potentially. So, maybe people's thoughts on that, if you think it's a good idea, if it's not. I can say, you know, I do understand the sentiment of, you know, I think I didn't actually meet my oldest child's teacher last year at all. You know, and just having that connection. You know, when we get into surveys, I just worry. Certainly, we can make something, but I would want to make sure that it's actually a good survey. That we're asking the right questions and we're able to kind of analyze the responses and feedback that we get. So I don't know if there are resources that we, you know, if this is a common thing done at many districts, and we just haven't done it yet, and it's something that we can take on, or if this would be kind of a really new thing.
I can check with my supervisor about resources.
Okay.
To see what you might have. I'm going to guess one of the districts, Michigan, probably has done this.
Family engagement is a huge topic. What's the term? I'm trying to think of the term. Difference between somebody, worrying about their child's academic progress and really being engaged in their learning. So it is a big topic. I think this COVID has really changed the dynamics because we don't, schools aren't doing what has been done in the past. So to survey what they want or to survey what has been done or their feedback, probably your results are going to be skewed to some degree, so.
Yeah, or even maybe just more people with ideas of different, potentially different options that, the five of us haven't thought of.
But I do know, when we read this email,
Yeah.
and it struck home with us, as you noticed, the high school's open house was virtual, but the format is different.
A little different, yeah.
Parents did have an opportunity to interact with the teacher. And the other thing that we did was, the high school, or the elementary parent-teacher conferences have been moved up. So in fact, the first one begins next week,
Yeah.
maybe. And that was all done directly as a result of, we understand that parents want that ability, want to have some conversation with the teachers earlier, particularly ones with a lot of new teachers, people don't know that, so it's certainly on our radar too, it's certainly.
Now, my understanding is there wasn't great participation, not many parents participated last week in the virtual open house for the junior and senior. It was phenomenal, I love it.
Was it?
I mean, I went, yeah, it was great. I mean, it was, but several teachers, I think, didn't get many folks. I didn't happen to know about it. I don't know if we missed the first notice about it. We actually didn't know about it till either the night before the morning of. So I don't know whether that might have been.
Honestly, I didn't even know if that happened yet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have kids in high school, so I only kind of knew because Mrs. Maxwell
For
said
people
this
to
in
have
between.
their presentations placed on the website. They were recorded, or they did a slideshow so that people could revisit it after leisure if they didn't have an opportunity.
So I mean, I had like where my son had, either like a study hall or lunch or something. I got like a free 10 minutes. So I just jumped into checking with some other teachers.
Did you?
It was great. I mean,
Was it? Yeah. Yeah, good.
But I think, I don't know, so I'm not sure why it wasn't better attended. I mean, I think that what I was hearing was people were kind of discouraged because they didn't get lots of.
Well, didn't you do last year, basically a PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah.
There's no interaction.
No interaction.
So they probably didn't understand
Right.
that this was a
It was
Google
different.
Meet.
Right,
It's
last year people could, all of the presentations were uploaded to a website and then it went live. The website went live, the presentation wasn't live, and parents could look at it at their leisure, and actually it was kept up the entire school year, so that it could be referred to throughout the school year. So let me see if I can get those presentations, we could post them just like the ones were last year on the website. And then any parents who didn't get an opportunity, they obviously won't be able to interact, but they can
Right.
still email or call the teacher with questions.
My thought on it, I really think parents want to see teachers interacting. They want to be able to ask questions.
I mean, I thought it was like, I thought it was 10 out of 10. I mean, I loved it. Like, but I felt badly that
Yeah,
people feel like, I guess, and I don't know why that happened.
right. That would be an interesting survey. Why didn't more participate?
Right.
I think it's a combination. Well, first of all, the drop off after grade 5 and 6 is tremendous. Grade 7 and 8. Then we get to the high school, except for you know, those AP students and honor students, their parents should have actively involved. But I probably, just the natural drop off, and I think probably people, you know, looking at a PowerPoint is kind of boring.
Well, so one of the things that, I have some feedback, I don't know who I should give the feedback to on it, and we don't need to do it here, but I have about 4 points that I thought could make it better. And I wasn't sure who I should give that feedback to, so maybe that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think our administrators,
Okay,
Open house.
and I'm curious too.
okay, maybe I'll just write an email, I can just send it.
That would be great.
Because if there were a few things that I thought were.
Hopefully, you know, knock on wood, next year we're not gonna have to do it.
Yeah, just
But we
go,
fought that this year, so.
yeah.
Right. Well, that's what a couple of folks said, that they, gosh, with the number of people who participated, we could have been in person, because there's so many fewer people involved in the virtual open house than there are during school day. But it is a whole different group of people, right? So, contact tracing.
So what I'm hearing is support for this. Amy, you're gonna look into it with your supervisor. I think maybe we can have,
Yes.
For a family engagement
Yeah,
survey.
yeah.
Yes.
and maybe we'll respond to this parent too and say, I think they mentioned that their district, sounds like they teach elsewhere, has some, and maybe they can send some samples. So, the logo use policy, it's just a topic we've had on for a while, I think. And so wanted to just bring it up and maybe make just a plan of how I don't think we need to solve it tonight. I don't think we could. But how we want to go forward, I think the PTA would like to have a kind of a merchandise shop open, or is that something that the school would want to have, you know? And just thinking about that. So I know we have some logo information in the kind of Google Drive folder, and I linked to that in the message.
You know, I think we had a bunch of the work, Queensbury had done a lot of work.
Queensbury had a
Access
whole,
all of theirs.
a real big,
The thought at the time was just, right now, anybody can, people, PTA asks us, they don't really have to. It's
Yeah.
a pretty policy that they can ask us, but they do. But we thought that it made us a little bit vulnerable to somebody misusing it if we didn't have a policy in place. So,
yeah, so I don't know, if, with that, we get sample policies, if that's more policy committee, or if that's something that we could have parameters for them.
So one of the things we just did recently, we have our diversity, equity, inclusion committee that's just pushed a policy to the policy committee. So we
Okay,
spent
so
like a
we
year on
could,
it actually.
yeah,
And then BOCES came up and we were like, oh, actually, that's what we were trying to do for last year. We got this one.
Yeah.
So we pushed that to them, they'll go through with a fine tooth comb. So I would envision it somewhat similar.
Similar
that we would sort of come
process.
up with like some general ideas. We do a little bit of heavy lifting, looking to whether it's Queensberry's or whoever's.
yeah.
It's okay, this is kind of what we're thinking.
I believe the equity, they went through the Erie one BOCES policy, so that you participate,
We're part of, yeah. so
we're
we-
part of that, so we
yeah.
could reach out to them and get sample policies
Right.
from Erie one. That is tremendous service. If you're paying for it, I would take advantage of that. They give you up to date.
And,
Would,
and often with one-off policies, we can also, I mean, NISPO will give us theirs.
Yeah.
They won't give us all of them, right, but if we, just because we don't subscribe to them, we subscribe to Erie one. So we'd have an opportunity to get a couple different ones to look at.
But NISBO, they'll share their
Yep.
policy. See if they're one of your members and remembers them.
Yeah.
We are.
Is there a special, yeah, they do charge additional, correct, for?
If you want to subscribe to their policy service, they do, but if you, pretty generally, if you just want to look at one certain one here and a certain one there, they're very open to those.
Yeah,
If you got the whole gamut and they go through yours with you, then you have to subscribe.
but Erie one is the best. That's what everybody.
Right. Well, that's like on this equity, it's just like we had been working on it for literally a year, and then we read there, that's what we're trying to get to.
Yeah.
It was good, it was
Okay.
good exercise,
Yeah,
going through it, but like, it was just so concise and sort of had this framework. It wasn't, we were kind of getting bogged down in details, and it's like, just 30,000 feet, this is what the mall scene, we're like, so it makes sense to.
So I can work on getting those samples and send them out so to people to kind of have a chance to review.
Perfect.
But I don't know if there's you have other things you wanted to say about it?
No, I think that makes perfect sense to start and see what they have, and,
Yeah.
their generic ones, and then.
And see what we want, what we don't want. So, because I think, I mean, somebody who, had all kinds of Salem stuff when I was a student here and then didn't have much anymore, unless it was holy and super old.
Right.
It was nice to get some new Salem.
Well, it's nice last, when
Yeah.
PTA did that, I think they'd like to do it again.
Yeah,
And obviously, they could, I mean, we don't have a policy, so they could do it, but I
but
think they're gonna ask us
they're
again. They wanna go
respectful
through
and good about that, yeah.
But it makes sense for us to have it.
The tagline survey, another item that we kind of did last winter, I think, for a little bit, and then got busy with other things. Is that something that we want to continue to pursue, or is that something, I know we didn't have marketing on the agenda tonight. Is that something that maybe you want to hold off on for now, until we have that larger marketing discussion?
Good question. Did we do that survey?
We did,
Yes.
and
Were there any suggestions that the board liked?
so we had,
There were two that we
there
sort
were
of.
a couple that we sent along, just to make sure.
could you send me that?
Yeah.
Survey? I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, we probably, that was last winter, probably,
Uh,
that?
Yeah, I know,
Way before
I-
its time.
oh, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it was
early
like-
last
it was-
winter.
It was a homegrown survey.
We've been here 4 weeks.
Yeah. So I think the three that we got, let's see, like 11 responses. But the three that we had thought about sending to the board, and I'm not sure that it ever actually made it on an agenda. We may have just
Yeah, I don't-
kind of
we
said.
talked about it, but I don't think, they never went to the board
Yeah.
for a decision.
The three we had, rich in history, committed to excellence. From here, you can go anywhere. And grounded in tradition, committed to excellence. The first and the third are kind of just using different.
So what was the third one?
Grounded in tradition, committed to excellence. And I'll share this. So, is that something that we want to move forward with, or wait and kind of have it as a larger part of the marketing discussion? We've had discussions before about just how do we, before, students like Bob and others would just kind of naturally come over here from Rupert. But now with different legislation over in Vermont, we have much more choice. And so how do we make sure we can capture some of those students? It's really been part of, I mean, some of my good friends, even from
There's
years
several
ago
of us
are,
who grew up in Rupert who live here now, right? Married people from here, or
Yep.
who decided to live here.
there's several I can think of.
You look at, there's, I think, 4 kids from Newport who went to another school that had to cancel their soccer season because they didn't have kids. But historically, they went from here, there were 4 more kids who would have had soccer here, right? I mean, we always had Vermont kids that were some of those extra athletes. And, so,
Yeah, just a way to highlight what we have to offer.
and they're right up
too.
the road, right? They're
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, yeah. So good question. Do we, I guess part of the question would be, does the communications committee have So the survey narrowed it down to those three?
Kind of, I think the committee kind of said from those options, those were kind of the three that we liked.
But it went out to also, so refresh me, was it, the survey was for people to give ideas, or was them to choose between those three?
To give ideas.
To give ideas.
So they're about, so we put it out to the community, to the public, and said, let's get your ideas, what would be like a motto or a tagline. And we got 11 responses, and the communications committee, we narrowed it down to those three. So, there are just some themes about excellence and that were in there, and so, some of them were maybe melded together. We changed the word here or there, but the themes were from those suggestions.
I always like the tradition and excellence piece. Two of our neighboring districts, lots of districts have been
Yeah.
choosing those words. And so I feel like they're a little bit long in the truth distance or something. But I guess the question is, does the communications committee make a recommendation to the board, or we just say, okay, here's three at some point, and that's kind of independent of whether now is the time?
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of thinking like maybe we do bring them to the board and say, here are we did this survey, kind of got put on the back burner with other things. Here are kind of the three that we came up with. Is there anyone that really grabs you? But also say we're also thinking about some marketing materials, and through that process, you wonder if these wouldn't fit with what we decide. Maybe there's something else that comes out of that process that is stronger. Or everybody else could say, I love this one. Like that's exactly what Salem's about. This is what we should use. Maybe that's a different thing. And then, I think that then leads to the question, well, okay, you have this, where are you going to use it? Which is another discussion.
So there was a person that I met, I'm trying to remember exactly where I met, but who had, it's actually a photographer marketer, and we just talking about, you want so you kind of have to define yourself, and then on your website, if you want your website to portray that, that's what you want people to see, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sort of, I've always felt that I guess this comes from where I went to college, that they have two websites, right? You have a website that the public sees, and then there's a website, it's where people inside need to get stuff, it's got lots of information on it. And those are two very different, right? And I think that often, if you try to do both, it's hard to do either well, you end up with lots of drop downs and menus and places and places. But I think that's where some of that thought process came from, was to you kind of have to define it. Let people know this is who we are. Doing it with their perception in mind, right? Of you want to be a desirable place. And some of this, I guess, my perspective comes because this is what we're competing against, right? And there's schools that are very keen to. They realize this is a competition for research. Right? If where kids go, money goes. Where money goes, you can have programs. And where kids don't go, right? And it's now. I think that public education's been slow to catch on to this because it has, typically it's whoever lives in your town, that's who goes to your school. And we were always a little bit different here because we were pulling from outside the district, but also the people who are moving. The woman who was on board when I started, she said, we were looking at a bunch of different houses around here. And when I saw a picture of the front of the school, I thought that's where I want my kids to go. A town that cares that much about their school must be a good town. And so, perception becomes reality. And I think that, that story that you have to tell, your tagline is part of it. You're trying to accomplish who you are. So I think it's important. I don't really know the time as far as
whether it makes sense to push that to the board, or whether, kind of, I don't know what steps, what happens when, as far as the marketing, figuring that out.
Yeah, but Amy, do you have any thoughts?
I would recommend something done
Okay,
so that that can start being implemented in things on the website. Encourage teachers, once they do have a signature line, that everybody is uniform. That's put in the signature line of your emails, so that the community starts seeing that and getting used to it. We can make it a hashtag if we want to. Hashtags are can be faux pas on Facebook, not so much on Twitter, but people do use them on Facebook. Things like that, just so people keep seeing that over and over again, would really be the point of doing it on social media, or I should say specifically to Facebook, because it'll be a while before there's anything that relates to that hashtag. But over time, if somebody clicks on that hashtag, it will eventually see stories that connect to that. So I would recommend to start doing it sooner than later, rather than waiting for these other marketing pieces, because really the tagline should kind of like this piece, it should be all encompassing and timeless as possible,
Right.
not slid in to meet a specific criteria for a specific time.
sure.
So that would be my recommendation.
Okay. And I mean, obviously the board can say, try again.
Right, exactly.
So,
If there's
right.
none of them that appeal to them, then we do it again.
You guys, do you have a preference? So is it?
So, I do have a preference. I like the middle one.
I mean, I really like,
I don't
sort of like the
remember.
history of, what's that?
I don't remember.
Middle one
From
was,
here you can go anywhere.
From here you can go. Now, that's really, thinking about it more now, I think that it's more of a junior high, senior high thought process than like, right, I mean, with your kindergarten, you're thinking like, oh, yeah, are you with me?
Yeah.
Right? And so it's, and so I don't know that it is general enough to be used by elementary teachers on there, right? But if, I'm not sure how a mom or dad or kindergarten feels with that. As an institution, that's sort of what I think that like I mean, when you look at where people have gone, like that's what we're able to do.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
This was a few years ago, I went to, it was put on by the New York State Rural Schools Association,
Okay.
and I know one of the, and not that we want to discourage students from going away and doing well, and with Scott, his quote was initially, "Get out of here," and I was like, I'm gonna fine tune that a little bit, because I do know, we do want our students to do well and excel, but on the other side of the coin, there is also concern about talent being
Oh, 100%.
taken away,
Yeah.
so, I don't know, does that
Well,
conflict with it? It,
Well, here is somewhere. I mean, anywhere, like, you can go read.
well, exactly, that's what I think, we don't wanna push that we're,
Maybe you
we
can
don't
have-
want it to come across that we're saying, leave Central,
Yeah.
right?
Right, well, I think, so, honestly, I think that, there is something to be said for people, and maybe this is just my personal bias, realizing, going somewhere and realizing what a great place it is to bring back,
Yep.
right? And I think when you look at a number of the families, there's a lot of families who move back, right? That they have gone to college somewhere, gone to
Yep.
work, or work somewhere, gone to the military, and said, hey, there's no place like home. So,
I can speak, from personal experience, the same thing. I think I had like, well, see you later, on like my cap when I was ready to get out of here and do something different. And but then after a while, I'm like, you know, this is where, you know, if I'm gonna have kids and raise, like, I wanna be here, I wanna be back here. I do agree, you know, I see your point of sending them, I think it's just that to me, I feel almost like the possibilities are endless, what you're doing. You know, I even think a little bit just about people in my class, you know, who I know, and all the things that they're doing, all the different things that they're doing. I don't think, you know, I'm sure there's more than one engineer or something, you know, in the class, but at the same
And
time.
I'm not saying I dislike it, but I don't even
No,
know.
it's good.
No, I think
But
it's
I
good
just-
to think
I don't
about.
want that perception in the community that you're sending talent
I agree.
away.
I agree, however, I think that, so I don't think those folks who went away and then came back are any less passionate. I would argue probably the opposite, that they're more passionate because they actually made an active decision. It wasn't just a default, like, I'm here, I'm gonna stay here.
Well, Scott
It
was
was-
one of those people.
What's that?
Scott Leonard was one of those people and having a great conversation with him.
Absolutely, 100%, right? And so, and I think that if you, I don't think you want to be seen as insular if you're trying to attract. You want to be seen as an awesome opportunity. And I think if people have an awesome experience, they're more likely, and they feel positive about it, that's where the rest of them want. So, I mean, I think that, but I guess a lot of this is probably my biases and thought process, and I don't necessarily know what a mom or dad of a 10th grader or 3rd grader thinks.
And I'll just, I don't have a 3rd grader, but I do have kindergarten. You know, and I think, to me, to me that, you know, I do want what's best for my kids, you know, everybody does. I think everybody wants that. And it's more of the, I feel some opportunity in that phrase, you know, that you really have any opportunity. This place will prepare you for whatever, you know, for any opportunity, for wherever you go or don't go, like whether you go someplace away or not, whatever you're doing, you'll be prepared. I don't know. That's my thinking.
I agree. I mean, that's.
So maybe we'll just test the waters with the board, see if any of them really stand out, or if it's something that it was a good effort and we just now's not the right time for it.
I guess my other perspective is when I think of this, I don't actually think of with the marketing in general. I kind of think of everybody, us, and passing budgets and people being excited, but also like other people who are thinking, hey, maybe we want to move to upstate New York, and where are we going to move to? But I think with tagline, I don't necessarily think of the 3rd grader's mom. I think of somebody who is trying to understand. They're going to come to one of these towns around here, and they're trying to figure out. I feel like it speaks more to them than it does probably to somebody who's right,
Yeah.
feeling like
Yeah.
they, you know, we're going to go there, coming out of Westchester, like what kind of education are my kids going to get? You know, what, it's just that image that, you know, the image that, and some of this honestly is a reaction to what it's a feeling of a reaction that I get to what the schools we're competing with are trying, right? I mean, they're very a very worldly outlook, right? And I think that is invariably some of our students are going to end up. That's where I think like the equity versus equity inclusion piece, right? The students are going to end up in situations where those skills are going to be important. And I think that right, it's a big world out there. Some people are going to find it, even though they don't realize it. And our responsibility, I mean, I think we need to be attractive. Right? It's like we want to be attractive so people want to come back to it, but I think that we need to prepare our students for what's out there. There's a lot of stuff out there.
All right. So So the last future meeting topics, I think logo use will certainly be one, more of a discussion on that.
I have a quick question also for future. So, one of the things that I have thought about from time to time is, so I would love to receive, every Sunday night, I'd love to receive a text message from school. It tells me what the extracurricular events are that week. And then every day at noon, I'd like to get, today at 4 o'clock, the girls varsity soccer team has a home game. There's going to be a concert tonight. And I think that would be, I don't think that would be, technically, I guess technically in my mind, it seems like it would be really easy. I'm not sure if that's true. There's some details, I mean, that's what you have communication people figure out.
There's some details, yes.
But I mean, when I have a dentist appointment, like, they're not like sending me home in a card and hoping I remember it, right? They're sending me a text message and I gotta respond, or they're canceling my appointment. And college appointment, same thing, right? Like, it's just, we communicate and get updated through our phones and text messages, right? We're pushing, people are pushing information to us. And, if we could race now, day and night, and see if either one of us could do it in under 2 minutes, to figure out like, okay, so what sporting events are happening here tomorrow night, right? Because you're gonna go to athletics, and then you're gonna go to fall sports, and then you're gonna go to boys soccer, and go, straight, no boys soccer, and then you're back out of there, so there's your 6th click, right? And you can click into something else. And
I think it's fast.
I understand that really organized folks, like my sister had it like on the refrigerator, right?
Yeah.
But, I have to believe, because a number of times we're like, my wife and I or others are like, oh shoot, there was a girls soccer game.
So, this will probably be news to you too. It was in the news.
Say that again?
I said this will probably be news to Mark as well. We did a very soft launch with a mobile app. Still trying to determine whether or not push notifications were included in the package, because when we look at the contract, it's very gray. I have one person at Blackboard saying they are included and another person saying they are not. So until that is determined, it's been very quiet, but there's an app. And there was a very soft launch in the newsletter that went out in the fall for last month.
So then where does that, because like,
And so
Facebook
that-
is dependent on somebody checking it out, right? Like, it would, like, I want a text message, just like if my dentist can do it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like, I have, so my farms, I've got all my farms now, like, every day, there's like 2 or 3 day points each farm's doing text.
Well,
And it's just like, it's a great way for me to know, like, I'm so in touch with what goes on, that it takes me 2 seconds, my phone's in my hand already. Okay, this is how much energy Trevor left at night today, this is how much feed he had left over in his pen. Boom, like, it's just whatever is like on our minds on those days, boom, I'm getting it, like, somebody on that farm sending it every day to our management team. And it's, it used to be literally, it'd be like, so you mean, this has been going on for 3 months and nobody knew about it? Nobody knew about it. And here we are, like, every day. And it takes almost no time.
Yeah.
so it'll be a matter of,
And
I
so
don't
does
know
that
if this is
do,
an added on cost to do that, or if we have it and just are not using it.
Because I mean, I even thought of doing it myself. So I'll just send out, put something on Facebook and say, subscribe, like, just give me your cell phone number, and I'll just send out a, I think what I want to do for that, because that's it to me.
yeah,
So you think Blackboard,
and would that still get, because like, I got to schedule Galaxy pretty quick, on the website, because there's an athletics game schedule.
It is, it's right there.
Okay, and so that would.
Well,
if
somebody would
push-
still,
if push
to push
notice-
it out, somebody would still have to actually push it out. Somebody could go to the app and it's right there. But to push out any information, even though
Yeah,
these pieces of information are there, somebody would still have to actively
go to it.
go and push
Rather
those
than-
pieces of information out.
William, our athletic director, about maybe 3 weeks ago, started sending out an email with all the athletic events on it to the whole staff for the week. And the first time he did it, first one, he got several positive comments. This is so neat, William. Thank you for sharing, because people, just like you're saying.
Right.
Oh, and I would love to get it too. I know my wife would.
It was cool for me,
Yeah.
because it's all in one place. I think
Yeah.
he sends it out on Fridays.
Yeah,
Maybe
if
since
there was
the-
a way to just
So he's
Move it
doing
in.
that.
So,
loop it in and people can
there's
subscribe
probably
to
also
it.
ways to filter, so if we only have children in elementary,
Well, I think so.
elementary.
Would people have to sign up?
I think people would have, because some people wouldn't want it,
Yeah.
right? Some people would be like, don't fill up, I don't.
Right,
text
people would
messages,
have
don't-
to opt into
I'm
it
thinking,
and sign up.
but we already do that, I mean, we opt into the phone home piece and those, but there's just so many, I think when you have teams that are really successful, like there's just kind of this buzz and word get passed around, but when people, they tend to pull so many directions. Like, there's just so much going on, and it's easy to be like, oh, shoot. I mean, it happened to me today, well, then I thought, oh, the boy's not gonna come up, so I'm you gotta come up to the soccer game, like,
Yeah. No, I mean, I've got kids off from practice and go over to watch a game for a little bit.
right, exactly, right, and
So. All right,
I think it's
so
worth looking at.
yeah, we'll try to keep it about to our hour here. So logo use policy, maybe more conversation about these notifications, which and getting those out. And I don't know if we want to start with kind of continuing that marketing discussion that we started last spring. I think would be the other item. Oh, not, let's see if a version of this makes its way. All right.
so will this, you'll talk about this a little bit on
Yeah.
the Local Communication Committee report on Wednesday at our board meeting.
Yes, I will try to, I don't know, maybe I can just send a couple things, particularly the 3 taglines to Gina, and I'll send this.
Yep.
Kind of bring a note on that, so, but absolutely, yep.
I will get a mock-up of this with, it'll be a less information
Yeah,
in this, in a triangle. It'll be very general,
sure,
but just use that as, here's the direction it's going.
sure. Thank you.
Instead of so that as to what way it's headed.
And if you want those, you're welcome to, if you want to get return it, I'll take those.
Yeah.
I
I
think
think
there's
there's
not-
I think there's a
It's on-
copy that we have, so.
I can notice.
Naomi, did you have anything else you wanted to add? No, she unmuted, but.
Oh, I saw a van today. Probably before that purpose.
What's that?